This video will demonstrate how to do a composition of functions. The way we denote composition of functions is with an open circle. This is not a times because it's an open circle. So the way we read this is f composed of g, all right, of x. And the way we write it is f of g of x, all right? So always go from left to right. This is going to be your outside function. This is going to be your inside function. Once again, you have to be given what f of x and g of x is in the original problem to go any further. And in this video, we will walk through three different examples. The first one is if I want to compose f of g. So part A, all right, is if I want to say f of g of x. And again, I'm just rewriting it from above, that f of g of x. Okay, over here, let's think about what that means for a minute. If I ask you f of 2, all right, you would know that you go to the f function where you have an x, you're going to plug in a 2. So you would have 2 minus 3, and in place of the x we'd put a 2, and we can further evaluate that to get negative 4. 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Well, we're basically asking the same thing here. I'm going to go to my f function, and wherever I have an x, instead of just placing a number such as 2 or replacing it with a variable like y or something, I'm going to replace it with the entire function g of x. So I'm going to go to my f function. Wherever I have an x, I'm going to actually plug in g of x. All right, so I can really think about this as f of, and now instead of writing g of x, I can replace it with what g of x is. In this case, it's x cubed. Okay, and now I have something that looks an awful lot like this f of 2. I went to my f function, wherever I had an x, I plugged in a 2. So now I'm going to go to my f function, wherever I have an x, I'm going to plug in x cubed. So it's going to actually be equal to 2 minus 3x cubed. And that is what f of g of x is, 2 minus 3x cubed. All right. The second example asked me to actually do a number. So I'm going to do f of g, and that's an open circle, okay, of x. And again, I've got the same definition, or I'm sorry, actually this time I'm going to do f of g of 2. Okay, so that's going to be a 2. So now this is going to be equal to f of g of 2. Okay, so in this particular example, I can kind of ignore the outside and just look at this inside, g of 2. Well, we're going to calculate g of 2 the same way we calculated f of 2. I'm just going to go to my g function, and wherever I have an x, I'm going to plug in a 2. So g of 2 is going to be equal to 2 cubed, or 8. Okay, so now I can rewrite this f of 8. Okay, and what that means, I'm going to go to my f function, wherever I have an x, I'm going to plug in an 8. So I get f of 8 is going to be equal to 2 minus 3 times 8, or 2 minus 24, which is a negative 22. So that's what it's going to be equal to. All right, so f composed of g of x, or of 2, I'm sorry, is going to be equal to negative 22. And just like before, I can work this in one of two ways. I could have come to my f of g of x function here and evaluated it at 2. So I could have evaluated this function here, 2 minus 3x cubed, when x equals 2. And that would have given me 2 minus 3, 2 cubed, would have given me 2 minus 2 cubed is 8 times 3 is 24, so 2 minus 24, or negative 22. Once again, I would have ended up with the same answer as I did down here. All right, so they're both the same way, they're both different methods of coming up with the same answer. Final example is I just wanted to show that you can compose a function of itself. So if I had f of x, which is part C, all right, I would write that f of x, all right. just like I did before, in place of this f of x, I can write what f of x is. It's 2 minus 3x. So now I have f of 2 minus 3x. All I did was substitute this f of x in for f of x. And now what this tells me to do is go to my f function, which is here, wherever I have an x, right there, and right there, I'm going to plug in 2 minus 3 of x. So f of 2 minus 3 of x is going to be equal to 2 minus 3 times, in place of my x here, I'm going to enter that whole thing, which is 2 minus 3x. Okay, and now all I have to do is expand this out. I get 2. I'm going to distribute this, minus 6 plus 9x, okay? Or this is equal to minus 4 plus 9x. So I just wanted to show you that you can compose a function of itself, and that is the composition of functions.